All right, how's everyone doing? I'm Rich CELENZA. Thanks for tuning in to the Rich CELENZA Show. WTF are you talking about? So, what I'm going to call this podcast is if you're ignoring your problems, there's your problem. So, a lot of times I know I come up with these goofy titles. And what's interesting is, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Blow. Pablo Escobar, or the actor, I love that guy, who played Pablo Escobar, and he was talking to Johnny Depp. So Johnny Depp played a drug dealer, and he came to cut a deal with Pablo Escobar regarding distributing coke in North America, or just, United States, let's just say. And Pablo said to him, he says, "I don't like problems." And I remember hearing that because I've been saying that my whole life, is I don't like problems. But I came to realize no matter who you are and what you do, you have problems. And I don't think a lot of people really want to acknowledge that, but I see most people trying to either pretend they don't have problems or not confront their problems. And I'm here to tell you that's one of the problems. And I'll just give you kind of some feedback regarding what I've kind of gone through in my life. And I always used to kind of pretend, too, that nothing bothered me, when the reality is a lot of things bothered me. And it's kind of funny when you take on a certain disposition where it's kind of full of shit. And, even emotionally, I'd be like, oh, who gives a shit? Like, everything was, who gives a shit? That type of attitude, like, who cares? That was always my thing. I don't know. It's none of my business. I don't care. But the reality is I did care. Okay, but I kind of suppressed it, or I was trying to pretend to everybody else that I didn't care. I was kind of, I'm not going to say above it, but it wasn't worth my time, I guess you could say. But then what I realized when it came to myself, I was doing the same thing. So if I had a problem regarding whatever it is, I was pretending there wasn't a problem. Now, it could be anything. I'm not going to get into all the damn issues that I've always had, but now that I'm older, I will give you an idea of a couple of them. And one was like just being insecure as far as me not being maybe as big or as strong as I always wanted to be, because no matter how big or strong I got, it was never enough. That's a problem. And I could not get over that problem. And I even got to the point where I was like 250 pounds and I'm bench pressing like crazy, and I'm very, very strong, really fit, doing a lot of crazy shit. And for some reason, when I'm looking in the mirror, and I've called it reverse anorexiism, I see a little skinny runt. And it took me years, I would say until maybe my early 40s, to get over that. Which sounds crazy now that I look back at that I had that insecurity. But I'll tell you, it still sometimes pops up. It pops up when I can't make it to a gym in a couple days or 2-3 days. So I just had to do a bunch of traveling. It was insane. I had to do New York. I had to fly from Florida to New York, and then I had to fly. Then the next day I had to be in Boston. Then the next day I had to be in Calgary. Then the next day I had to be, not the next day, I had 2 days in Calgary, but then I had to be in San Francisco. I had a 6-hour delay. This hasn't happened to me in years, where I only got one workout in, even in a hotel, because I had no time. I was catching 2 flights and working and just getting to bed. But I had only one workout in 5 days, and that hasn't happened to me unless I wanted to take that amount of time off, which is far and few between. But what was quite interesting is I started to see the problem come back. So I still have that insecurity, but I'm smart enough to address it and say, listen, asshole, you just took some time off. You're always preaching that there's more to life than just working out. At times, things do come up. So everything I'm preaching about, telling people on my YouTube videos or my podcast to say, hey, life sometimes, throws you curveballs or whatever. You got to just accept them and move on. And considering you're always working out, this isn't a big deal. But what I realized is I still had that problem. So when I went back to Florida, I had to fly back. The next morning, literally, I taped football and went right to the gym. And then the next day, I had to fly actually to I can't remember where the hell I went. Oh, I had to go to Destin, Florida. So I went there, and I go to a gym in Grayton Beach that I like. If you want, I'll be putting up a video there. I like this little gym. They move locations, and I like it. It's kind of an old school gym, even though it's a new place. But it's very like it's in a mall, but it's very small. It's very small. It's like being in a whatever. It's kind of like an old Gold's or World's gym. Kicked it in the ass. Was there 2 hours. Fell into my comfort zone, and I said, you know what? You. As much as you sometimes preach about problems and trying to help people solve their own problems or thinking you're over problems that you had in your past, you're really not. I'm very close to having the same problems I had back then. But I'm at least self-aware enough to realize how to address them. And I know we all have addictions, right? A lot of times back to problems you may have, and I believe we all have addictions to some degree or another. Some are more harmful than others. So some people smoke, some drink, some have Starbucks addiction. You can have a fitness addiction. You can have a obesity eating addiction. Whatever the case may be, I think we all have things. It could be watching too much Netflix. It could be sleeping too much. It could be whatever the case may be. And I think in my case, I've kind of transferred my problem, which was kind of looking in the mirror and always feeling thin or weak, even though I wasn't, to kind of transferring it to saying, hey, as long as I make it to the gym, I don't feel this way. I may not be as big, I'm not nearly as big or as strong as I was in my past, so I don't feel the need that I have to always be that strong or be that big. But at the same time, if I don't go in the gym, it kind of deflates me and I'm right back where I started. And that was something that I found quite interesting because I didn't know this about myself. And you may be somebody too who has problems, in many different areas. Again, I don't know what those are. And sometimes for one, we either suppress them or we think we've kind of conquered them, when in reality, we haven't. And I did a podcast about falling off the wagon, where I believe everybody, I think for the most part, maybe not everyone, but say 99% fall off the wagon. That goes for drugs, alcohol, gambling. The list goes on and on and on and on. I don't care if you go to rehab, because I know tons of people that have gone through rehab regarding many different things, counseling, all these things. And I think people think, oh, now that I went and did that, I'm going to get out, and now for the rest of my life, everything's going to be hunky-dory. I find that to be completely full of shit. But here's the thing I've realized more than anything is, back to problems. I don't like problems. It's not the problem. It's how we handle the problem personally. How do we just individually handle that? Because again, if you fall off the wagon, and some of my closest family members, friends, colleagues have fought a lot of different types of addictions, and I've seen them have, fall off the wagon, and they almost, some just want to just, go back full blown and just say, F it, I can't, this is my problem, I have to deal with it, I can't stop being addicted. And then I have others that kind of beat themselves up, they go back and forth, and then others that kind of learn from it. The only way I think any of us are going to prosper, or not prosper, I should say, that's ridiculous. Any of us can get through life is not beating the shit out of ourselves and constantly making ourselves feel horrible about things that we're going through. And I can't say that enough. I can't say this enough. No one is perfect, man. And I think a lot of us look up to certain people, and it could be people that you go to, I don't care if it's Gamblers Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous, whatever addiction it is, I don't know, or whatever problems you're having. A lot of us look at people and say, wow, you've done it for X amount of years, you're exceptional, or you've done this, and look at me, I can't seem to do this. That's all great, but you are you, and you're going to go through your own thing. And I also think a lot of people, truthfully, are full of shit. What they portray themselves to be, or what they're talking about, or talking to you, it could be consulting, it could be coaching, it could be just helping. A lot of times they're not telling you a lot about the hard times that they've gone through or what they're doing behind your back. I'm just being honest with you. And I could tell you that for sure, because being raised in a bar nightclub, I used to say, I mean, especially with a lot of religious figures or a lot of different people that are preaching to you, you are holding at a certain standard. I can assure you a lot of times they are falling a lot shorter than you know. You just don't know that. And there's nothing wrong with looking up to people and emulating people that you respect. But understand, a lot of that stuff, that could be a lot of full of shit. Just, I got to get that off my chest. But when it comes to you, you just figure out who you are and what's going to work best for you. And they say take it day by day. Legit, I think that's the only thing you can do. Regardless if you have problems or not in anything in life, it is really second by second, minute by minute, day to day. That is all. That's it. That's life. You have no idea. I can walk out of this hotel tomorrow morning, get hit by a car and be dead. I can get shot. I can also, who knows, something prosperous can happen. I don't know those type of things, but you just got to understand that you are going to not only have problems you're dealing with now, you're most likely going to have problems in the future that probably have nothing to do with even now. You also are going to probably have, things that you've conquered in the future as well. So you have all these different types of things. Also, if you have kids, say for instance, your kids are going to start bringing problems into your life that you have no idea about. If you have parents that are older, that's going to probably end up having to be more problems. And when I'm saying problems, a lot of times, I don't want everyone to think they're negative, because it's not. It's just reality. Some things, not everything is going to go your way. Some things are, some things aren't. Some things are just going to be complicated. And when I say, that's what I should be saying, is like a problem is just a complicated situation that you're going to have to go through. And how you deal with it is how you deal with it. And lately I've been trying to calm myself down, because I realize I'm really good. I'm really balanced when it comes to certain things, especially when you travel a lot. You have to have a lot of patience, especially with flights that get canceled, say for instance, delayed, traffic a lot, weather conditions I'm going through, just even different prices when you're trying to price certain things are very expensive. You're trying to save money. Your time management, you never expect certain things to happen that happen. And I used to get upset a lot. And I used to have a coworker that went berserk because he was really great at traveling. He was like to the dime, and when something would set him off, he would flip out. I was kind of the opposite. I'm like, just take it. Like, I just know what I got to do. I'm going to do the best I can do to get it done. But I can't stress. But I will say it is very stressful. But when you get nuts at the problems that come arise or whatever it is, and like, for instance, last night I had a poor woman coughing in my hotel very loud, and I couldn't sleep. And it broke my heart. I almost went downstairs and said, I think I need to change rooms, because she was so loud. I couldn't even, I had my computer on. She was so loud I could barely hear my computer. I had to put my headphones in. She was the room next door, and actually I could just tell she was probably very, very sick. So to go to bed, I just put my headphones on and went to bed. But it was very aggravating to hear her coughing the entire time for literally a couple hours. And then when I got up in the morning, she was coughing the whole time. But I just had to say, calm the hell down, right? What is this going to, what this problem is not going to help you throughout the day. It's just not. Make sure what you're going through throughout the day, if you're going to get nuts over it, it is worth it. Because there's so many things you could get pissed about throughout a day that can ruin your day, ruin your week, ruin your month. Is it worth it? It's like a value, like tit for tat, like getting upset over a lot of your problems, I get sometimes are worth it. But at the end of the day, was it truly worth the value of you getting stressed out of your mind? It's not only you sometimes dealing with your problems, it's what you put other people through. That's the one thing I had to realize, especially when I got a divorce, is because I couldn't make it as a filmmaker and I wasn't successful, or I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And even though in my mind I said I'm doing this for my family, my kids, I want to be successful and all these things, the problem was me. It was no one else. I had to figure out and say, wow, my behavior is the problem. Okay? Me failing at certain things, that's not a problem necessarily. That's a reality. And if I plan on succeeding, I have to, get past that. But just because I'm having problems doesn't mean I have to show everyone else my problems or then take my problems out on them. So I didn't even mean to get too nuts with that. But that's the reality, I think, and a lot of people don't realize that about themselves with problems. So I just thought I would do a podcast on that. And I think I've done something similar in the past. I don't want to become repetitive on my podcasts. But when it comes to this subject, I think it's very close to my heart because, like I used to say, one of my slogans was, I don't like problems, when I realized life is nothing but a problem or overcoming a problem, especially if you plan on doing things and you plan on challenging yourself. So, there's no way I could go throughout a day of traveling or do what I do without something coming up that's kind of something I could look at it as a problem or something that I can solve very quickly and get past, right? And that's just, that's the way I think the best way to learn on how to live your life is not getting crazy. And that doesn't mean that you have to get obsessed with, I love the law of attraction, or I love like positivity, and I love all that stuff, and just being calm and all that stuff. That's great stuff, and I think about it all the time. But I would think I was also programmed differently, where I do become a hothead and I get angry. But I have to step back and say, too, me being angry, is it helping me? Most likely not. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to get angry, but is it helping me? Probably not. And then a lot of times when I'm lashing out at, or if I'm upset at something, I'm aggravated at the other person, what they're doing or what they didn't do. And how is that working out for me usually? A lot of times they don't even have anything to do with it, right? It could be like I'm going to get a rental car, or I'm calling for a rental car like the other day, and they were sold out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I rent from you guys 150 days a year. You're not going to get me a car? I mean, that was my attitude. I was like, goodbye. I didn't even say that, but that's what I was thinking. Then I called another rental car company that I rent to as well a ton. They're like, I'm sorry, we're sold out. And I was about to say the same thing. Are you effing kidding me? Between me and my girlfriend, I can't even tell you how many cars we rent. And plus we're like, we're like diamond members in all these places. So I ended up going with another company, and they overcharged me, but I was just grateful they did that. But I was about to blast the two rental car companies that I use the most, and say, what are you, like, I was really about to say, what are you, fucking kidding me? You're not going to get me a car? You're telling me you're out of cars at an airport? Like, just that was my frame of mind. But then I had to sit back and go, they have nothing to do with this. They're not, in charge of corporate headquarters. They don't know. So I'm just giving an example where that could have ruined my day, but I had to keep moving forward. And instead of me getting upset, screaming, hanging up the phone, and not finding a rental car, I just had to keep moving forward. And that would be the last thing I'm going to tell you right now is, if you have a lot of problems, you try to solve them the best you can and move forward. Don't dwell in that shit. It's like that famous saying I once heard, what do they say? You can't ride a dead horse, or something like that. I once heard regarding me, like someone once said, Rich, not only do you're trying to ride the dead horse, I'm trying to drag it. Because sometimes I would have a problem or an issue and I couldn't let it go. And I think a lot of us do that, especially in relationships. Let it go, man. Let the problem go. Especially, you just conquering it and moving forward can be the best thing that ever happened to you. That doesn't mean you have to forget about it. It just means quit dwelling on that shit. And if somebody else has done something to you that hurts you, whatever the case may be, I get it. Quit bringing up the past problems or what they've done or whatever the case may be. Like lead by example. Just keep moving forward. All right? That's all I can tell you. And that goes for anything you do in life. That could be a relationship that ends. I'm sorry. That was a problem. There was a lot of problems. That's why it ended. You have to learn to move on. That goes for friendships too. That could be a job that you got fired at. It could be whatever the case may be. A lot of things led to that, and now you have to move on. And if you can't move on, again, that's a problem for yourself that you're going to have to address, and you've got to get over that shit. You've got to learn to move forward. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channels. I've been putting up a lot of different things regarding fitness. I've been putting up some new Italian restaurants I've been visiting, new and old, that I go to. I did a new Italy in Boston. I did a couple in Calgary. They're Little Italy over there. What's that, Tuxedo area? Tuxedo City or whatever they call it. Tuxedo Little Italy. Not a lot of people know about that in Calgary, but there's a lot of cool little Italies in Canada. What I love about them is they try to stick with the tradition of Italian food. Not to throw my country, United States, under the bus, but a lot of times if you go to New York, Chicago, Boston, of course, it's Italian food, but they've kind of adapted over the last X amount of years their own style of Italian food. But if you go to Canada, a lot of times they are sticking with the traditional, I think, a lot of Italian dishes from Italy. And a lot of them people still are from Italy working in these restaurants, which I love as well. So I got some videos on that on my Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram too. So I'm going to wrap it up there. If you're traveling, safe travels, and please don't let your problems make you nuts. We all have them. Nobody's avoiding. Nobody is going, like I say a lot of times, no one is going, what's that saying I say? I got all these crazy sayings. No, well, basically, nobody is living their life without tons of problems. Unscathed, I guess you could say. We're all going to get hammered one way or another. I don't care who the hell you are. All right? All right. Take care again and safe travels.